stand, and from that center I the soul will outward move. From that center I the one who serves will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and throughout the world. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and I
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Ask meditation on attracting financial resources, attracting money for hierarchical purposes. It's done every, well, Sunday morning is the time, but we cannot do it on Sunday morning if we're going to cover the people who may want to utilize it or participate with us. So, and as you probably know, our Ask programs and other programs are now taking place on an evening daylight saving time schedule, 3 hours ahead here in Finland of the GMT time. And for a while, we will not have so much the morning meditations, but the people in, let's say, Vietnam and Australia, I hope you can pick up the program if you find it too inconvenient to join us in the middle of the night. Well, I'd like to read a little bit from the Tibetan, and we're looking for the various references on money and the context in which we can consider them. Yes. So in this particular case, it's more than money, this particular reading, but it puts money in context. So he says, when the mind, the third aspect of the personality, counting from below, is more fully developed, then the focus of the effort of the dark forces will change, and the problem of the Jews will disappear. Mankind is not yet handling its problems intelligently, and so later, of course, he began writing these books, The Problems of Humanity. Thus, the forces and energies of the creative process are exceedingly active at this time in preparing what I might call the material of the world. I think of that for a minute in relation to the whole issue of money, the material of the world, and the substance of all the four kingdoms, the lower ones, all the four kingdoms in nature, for the coming changes. They are being prepared. As the plowman turns the soil in the field and harrows it, and so brings that which is underneath to eventual fruition, so a similar process is taking place in the world today, and all is preparatory for the sowing and its resultant effects. The sowing of the seeds, which must blossom during the Aquarian age. These effects will constitute the new Aquarian culture and civilization. In this process, the hierarchy is taking a definite and influential part and is working more uniquely and specifically than ever before in the history of the world, under instruction and vital, notice that word, because it's not just a random word, it has to do with vitality and energy, under instruction and vital aid from Shambhala. So here he lists 5 major energies and their particular names, of which we should be aware. The Shambhala energy, it's coming from the planetary head center. It's basically first ray energy, though there is some admixture of the second ray due to the influence of Sanat Kumara. The issue is the will, and divine purpose is pouring forth. It's conditioning the life of nations along with other energies, and from it the divine plan is given and received. Sanat Kumara, the Lord of the world, the extension or emanation of the planetary logos, is responsible for the expression of this energy. And it works out in politics and, interestingly, in esotericism, real esotericism. As a matter of fact, when you're looking for the esoteric ray of a particular planet, you are dealing with the monadic ray and hence Shambhala. So it brings in the new, and it is the destroyer of the old and outworn ways. Then the hierarchical energy, which is divine love, wisdom. It is the divine ray, okay? There's the primordial ray, which is ray 3, and the divine ray, ray 2, and then, of course, the ray of the coming age, which will be ray 7, but ray 1 will be much involved. And the Buddha and the Christ at this time are great examples of it. So it involves the planetary heart center, conditioning the soul of humanity, and it works out in the religious field and the spiritual field. And note how he's differentiating the religious and spiritual from the esoteric. So in Egypt, let us say, eventually there'll be a very esoteric school, probably have a lot of the first ray in there, and also maybe in the climactic school in what we now call Tibet. It inspires, and people who want to work with this energy will inspire others. It's the second ray, love, wisdom. Then it's humanity's energy, which we call divine intelligence, correlated with the third ray. And a lot of people are expressing this today. It works out, at least in this context, as the planetary throat center. Sometimes humanity is given an ajna center function, but usually it's the higher aspect of humanity that form the serving group that conditions the ajna. And its work is in the field of education. So take a look at this. Politics, esotericism, religious, spiritual, and education. It is a creative energy. The will to create is involved, and the intellect is brought into service. And how interesting it is that he separates the Jewish force from humanity's force in general. And he does tell us that it won't last forever. It is temporary, but still, I think, to be with us for some centuries. And it does produce, as the third ray can, it produces separation. Interestingly, even though it is a very mental force in one sense, it's connected with the planetary solar plexus. But then that planetary solar plexus is a 6, and the intellect is a 3, and those two rays are closely related. So there's a lot of world sensitivity going on right now in the emotional field surrounding the problem, as it is called, the problems of the Jews or Jewish force. Note, however, that the 7th ray is included as the 7th ray aspect of the 3rd ray. And you will, find in this force much meticulous observation of many rules, many of them dietary rules, which have to be followed by the Orthodox meticulously. Maybe there are, over 600. And note that this force is connected with magic and money. Now, both the third ray and the seventh ray are connected with magic and money. Magic is a third ray expression, and the ritualism which brings that third ray into manifestation is ruled by the seventh ray. And this, well, you know, it's kind of a canard in a way. Sorry. That the Jews are associated with money. They do have a particular ability along these lines, probably because of the inheritance of the previous solar system. Now, it's just a question of this money being used in white magical ways. Right now, the tendency to corner money for one's own purposes, which are personal, is everywhere found in the world. Now, when this force turns around, there will be all kinds of creative use of money for the welfare of humanity. And he does say that the Jewish group can form in the future a kind of aspect of the aristocracy of humanity. They have so much experience, after all, many of them being transports via Saturn from the previous solar system. Of course, when we think about the Jewish force, we don't only look to those who are ethnically identifiable as Jews. There are many people who came from this earlier system, and they are found in all the races. It's their psychic conditioning which is of importance. But the main thing for us is to overcome the separativity of the financial force. Right now it's used to dominate, to deprive others, to produce special conditions of unnecessary luxury, to produce protection, in fact, to separate the users of this force from other human beings. And that is a crime, because everyone on this planet has to have the wherewithal to improve their life, their psychological and spiritual condition. And then, maybe surprisingly, comes the materialistic aspects under the fifth and first rays. The fifth aspect of the first ray, and there we think of the tetractys, with the dot representing the 5 beneath the 1. The sacral center is involved. It's a very materialistic force, even more materialistic than the Jewish force. And sacral center, after all, produces the densest vehicle that we have, that vehicle being the dense physical body. So we can understand that the concentration upon the planetary sacral center can cause a great deal of difficulty and entrapment for many millions of people. I mean, the Tibetan has said that even the hierarchy does not know where the whole sex problem will end. And people are today so captured by it. And it has something to do with the majority of human beings entering the age of Aquarius via the Venus decanate, interpreted in a lower manner as the affiliative power that brings people together. So there are five different energies which are of the utmost importance today, and we see somewhat where magic and money fit. And we look for the application of this force to the love-wisdom energy and to the building energy, building intelligently, better for the future. So it has to be changed. Its direction of usage has to be changed, and we have to do that in our own lives. Okay, that's a little bit about the place of money in 5 critical areas. By critical, I mean important to humanity and the kingdoms of nature. Now, let's go on with the meditation. I think there must be somewhere a compilation on money that perhaps we or others have made over the years, and it certainly wouldn't hurt to study it. So we begin with the Tibetan's ideas, in which he is really enunciating a law. So we are to realize the occult law. To those who give shall be given, so that they can give again. And basically this tells us a secret of great attainment, of the abundance of the macrocosm, or the various macrocosms, to those who give all. All shall be given. It's difficult, but difficult to reckon with. But we have some great exemplars in the Christ and the Buddha. Think of the sacrifice of the Buddha. Sacrifices. There's a story about him. It's one of those old stories that he, as an aged, in a certain earlier incarnation, as an aged wise man, he came upon a starving tiger with starving cubs, and he threw himself down before the tiger to offer his body for their sustenance. I wonder how many of us would do that. And we're familiar with the sacrifices of the Christ. After achieving a positive and intended personality quietness, formulate clearly to yourself and in your own words the answers to the following questions. If money is one of the most important things today, needed today, for spiritual work, what is the factor which is, at present, deflecting it away from the work of the hierarchy? And we know it must be some kind of profound ignorance which basically takes materialism for reality. What is my personal attitude towards money? Am I handling it? Or rather, do I regard it as a great and possible spiritual asset? Or do I think of it in material terms? That is a great discriminating question. And what is my personal responsibility towards or in regard to money which passes through my hands? And hear that question, am I handling it as a disciple of the Masters should handle it? These questions have to be repeated. None of us is going to be able to answer perfectly and with a kind of response that is really totally correct. We have to keep growing in our ability to respond to the possession of money and its distribution. And we will get better at it, of course. The old myth concerns the Hydra, a physical head of the nine-headed Hydra, about money and its wrong use, creating a great glamour hovering over the whole of humanity. A very great problem which makes it so difficult to uplift humanity as a whole. But in so many ways and places, selfishness seems to prevail. So study yourself honestly and see clearly, does this head of the wrong use of money have any power over you? Or in what way, if it does? And how will you overcome its power? We have to have a plan for that. And we stand in the light of the soul, and maybe it's more proper to say we kneel in the light of the soul and lift this head into the light of the Buddhic plane. And then that head, like all the others, weakens, and the illusion is seen through. The illusion of the materialistic use of money. We have to decouple the idea of money from materialism. They seem always to fit together, but they don't have to fit together. And the same is true for our countries and really for all the countries. How is the money spent? Is it spent selfishly and for the personal aggrandizement of the few? Or is it really spent to give increased opportunity to the many? But eventually the power of this Hydra head will diminish like all the others, and it will fade away, and in its place virtues will appear, such as the right use of money for spiritual purposes. Now, ponder on the redemption of humanity through the right use of money. And visualize the money in the world today, firstly, as concretized energy. Because, when you give money, it releases action. Concretized energy, at present, largely used for purely material purposes and for the satisfaction, where the individual is concerned, of purely personal desires. Usually to buy the best of the strictly material life and luxury in terms of super yachts and staggeringly expensive penthouses, the best of what restaurants can offer, the ability to travel by private airplane wherever. Many material uses which inhibit the right distribution of this flowing golden substance. But then, let us in fact visualize money as a great stream of flowing golden substance passing out of the control of the forces of materialism in the dark into the control of the forces of light. We might call it money for the good, for the beautiful, and for the true. And some money is directed that way, but vast sums are needed to turn around humanity's erring direction. So then we say the following invocative prayer with focused mental concentration and from a heartfelt desire to meet spiritual demands. O Thou, in whom we live and move and have our being, the power that can make all things new. Turn to spiritual purposes, the money in the world. Touch the hearts of men everywhere. So that they may give to the work of the hierarchy that which has hitherto been given to material satisfaction. The new group of world servers needs money in large quantities. I ask that the needed vast sums may be made available. May this potent energy of thine be in the hands of the forces of light. And surely the day will come when a great financial transformation under seventh ray first disciples who are initiates of the first degree, as DK tells us, that day will come, but we must begin now. Then, visualize the work to be done by those groups which claim your present allegiance. Any group which you know is attempting to carry out the hierarchical plan. And through the creative imagination and by an act of the will, see untold and unlimited sums of money pouring into the hands of those who seek to do the Master's work. And then we have this affirmation which we say aloud with conviction and emphasis. He for whom the whole world waits has said, that whatsoever shall be asked in his name, and with faith in the response, will see it accomplished. And at the same time, we remember, importantly for the future, that faith is the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen. So if in the name of the Christ we have faith that money will be properly used in the future to provide all human beings with at least the fundamental necessities, then we bring that eventuation closer to fruition. And now we can ask money for our defined purpose. I ask for the needed money for, and there is a blank that we will fill in according to our tendencies. I ask for the needed money for and I can demand it because from the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Remember the sequence: use, demand, take, and that money appears on the basis of need, of love, and of magnetism. We visualize ourselves, all of us, gathered at the feet of the avatar of love, And we say together, we have, excuse me, we have gathered in your name, Lord Maitreya, be with us. The world that Lord Maitreya wishes to create is far beyond the conception of most of us. And he is the great director of the regeneration of humanity during the Aquarian Age. Now, preparing your offering to the Christ, the money which you have set aside or designated during the previous week, and also, of course, the activity through which you offer time, which in a way is money. And we'll keep a few minutes of silence concerning how we will offer, what we will offer to Lord Maitreya. Now, we close with a careful consideration of our own responsibility to the plan. And we plan our weekly financial cooperation with the hierarchy. And the Tibetan says, wisely and as a warning, be practical and realistic, and know that if you do not give, you may not ask, for you have no right to evoke that which you do not share. We'll pause to contemplate that thought. attempt to feel true love sweeping through us. And we have the fixed intention to express that love to all whom we may contact. It is the great, attractive, and selfless agent in world affairs. And as you know, money flows when there is true love combined with need and magnetism. And the suggestion is that we keep our own bookkeeping, recorded plans for our savings for the Christ and His work, and then rhythmically give that money to your chosen group or organization who, whether they know it or not, works for the Christ. It's not just a question of the churches. There are so many groups that in working for the uplift of humanity are working for the Christ. So let us sound the Om 3 times, precipitating love into the worlds of the threefold personality. Okay, friends, thank you. Some of you have asked questions. What's all this meditation about? And I would suggest getting into the books of Alice Bailey, and especially the book, The Reappearance of the Christ, and the Problems of Humanity. If you become a student of the Tibetans' voluminous teaching, well, then it's all about, you'll see, improving and uplifting and spiritualizing the life of humanity in many, many ways. Now, one of our meditations in our Ask program, Ask, Seek, and Knock, is about money, but others are about the triangles and the reappearance of the Christ, and about ridding human consciousness of glamour. and about the destiny of the nations, because each nation has its peculiar destiny. So get into the work of the Tibetan teacher, Hierarchical, published by Lucis Trust and published in many books, some 24 books, most of which the Tibetan is responsible for dictating, and a few that Alice Bailey wrote on her own. And then the answer to that question will be clearly understood. Okay. On Wednesday again, we will resume with our triangles meditation. And starting the Ask programs again, shall we say. Every week we go through a sequence, and it's important in this sequence to do those meditations which DK called out to us as being especially important. Now, we'll close with the sounding of the Gayatri, maybe the world's oldest prayer.